right, my darklings, who's ready for their clone overlords? Or maybe, just maybe, you didn't get enough of conspiracies last week and you thought, geez, let me send a crazy conspiracy to Dave this week and see if he's dumb enough to talk about it. Well, guess what? I am. We're talking about that and so much more. And if you don't like it, well, that's the way the cookies crumble on tonight's edition of the Paranormal 60 News. Hello, my little darklings. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. I followed you and watched you all watch the show live on Monday, the pre-recorded episode, and I was so pleased to see that you guys were enthralled by the topic as much as I was. I want to thank Jody Dane again for joining me and all of the delightful comments and messages and private messages you've all sent me about that topic. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that more than you'll possibly know. You know, we like to shake it up and go into different realms and conversations, and that's what you're in for tonight. We've got an interesting evening, but before we get too interesting, let's bring in the people that help make this show interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, my right-hand man with the plan, Chachi. Good evening, sir.
I am here.
Excellent. What are you drinking tonight, Chachi?
I can't even believe I'm about to say this out loud. I'm in a hotel, and it's a dry night, Dave.
What? They don't? Are you in a? What?
Why?
Are you in the town of
dry?
Footloose? Are you not allowed to dance or drink?
Yep, I can't dance or drink tonight.
Oh my
which
God.
is why I have no stories.
Well, yes. I figured you were going to be buried so deep into tonight's show that why give you stories, because it's going to go horribly wrong. I'll just have you chime in on the rest of the stories with me. But you're not even drinking. A dry town. This can't be good.
Yeah.
Is this
what I brought along with me has since passed through my liver?
I don't believe that to be true either.
It hasn't passed, but it's attempted to.
Ladies and gentlemen, the greatest American hero is with us as well. The Colonel checking in.
How goes it there, Dave? And Chachi, sorry to hear about the situation you're in. I know it's a hard one. Gosh, wish I could help you. The only thing I do is drink to your pain.
Are you drinking some more of that Maui Wowie beer?
Maui Brewing.
That's beer.
Good stuff. Yeah. It's pretty good stuff. Yeah.
Wait, what's that? Yes? The connections have been made. Ladies and gentlemen, going somewhere above this planet, hovering in a tin can, our own Major Tom. That's right. Greg Lawson is here, the paranormal detective.
Wow.
Greg?
Ground control.
Yeah, I made it back. Everybody is all settled in. We sent them home for the night, and I have the place to myself.
You've taken control of
Control
one. I like that. Very good. What are you drinking tonight, Greg?
Well, I have a little bit of a mixer with a little rum and a little Coke.
High school days. I like that.
Yeah. It's the Kraken, by the way. Kraken.
Ooh, Kraken rum, one of my favorites. All right. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen, to the drink master. I only say that because she actually makes the drinks. Chachi just pours his right from a bottle over ice, so I can't even call him a drink master. She is here. Sweet Tea is in the house. What are you drinking for us this evening, Sweet Tea?
I'm pretending to drink bee's knees, but it was gross, so I'm drinking wine.
Wow.
Well played. So you could have just lied to us and we'd never know.
We'd never.
Is
I
the
would
video
never.
of you making the bee's knees up so people can
Yeah.
go watch you make a horrible drink?
So weird that you should ask. It is. Thank you.
Yeah. You know what that reminds me of? We got Taco Bell tonight for dinner because we were all in a rush working all day trying to catch up. And I get done with my meal, and there's my little cinnamon twisters, crispers, and I'm like, favorite part of the meal. I pop one in my mouth. My mouth begins to burn immediately. It is though somebody had dunked my crispers in bleach.
Oh,
I had to spit it out, rinse my mouth out. It's still all on the inside of my mouth and tongue feel like they're chemical burned.
Sounds
So,
like
um,
Taco Bell for a year for free to me.
Yeah, so
let's go ahead and drop the address and let's see if we can get you some free Taco Bell.
Oh,
Did you
they've
dip
already-
them in bleach before eating them?
No,
Are you
I
sure?
stopped doing that in the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is it like
I
a finger?
I thought it was ketchup.
it was brutal, no good. So I did what everybody would do, and I said, "Hey, come here, you guys, try these. They taste bad to you." Everybody agreed. They taste like somebody tried to poison the Schrader family. So if at any point during tonight's show I go down, you know what happened.
Doesn't Chachi have controls?
Yes, Chachi has controls. He is in control.
Chachi is in control.
All right. Now let's just prepare for this right now. If I vanish off screen, don't talk about me being vanished off screen. Just keep doing the show. You kids are trained well enough now.
Yeah.
Let's do this. All right. So this week, after last week's news, I was sent some conspiracy theories. I was sent some really strange stuff, and this might be my brand new favorite nut job conspiracy theory. Are you guys ready for this?
Yes.
And luckily, I was able to do my own research because I happen to have 400 boxes of these at home. Ladies and gentlemen, Oreo. It is a Knights Templar Masonic sign. I'm sure what this really means is somehow this Oreo cookie embedded within the ingrained chocolate goodiness, there is a map to find the Templars' gold.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you look at it on this map, if you're not listening or you're just listening, not watching, we do have the picture of it up. You got the 12 rings for the 12 apostles. You got the Knights Templar that were founded in the 12th century AD. Coincidence? I don't think so. How about the Cross of Lorraine used by the early Templar Knights in the oval above the word Oreo? And then what is that circling the inside of the Oreo? Why, that's the Templar cross. Right? I mean, everybody can see it. It's plain as day that obviously the Illuminati and the Masons have taken over the cookie industry.
Isn't
Obviously.
anything sacred anymore? Good
Nothing.
God.
Nothing is sacred, apparently, except for Oreo cookies, because you've seen that the Templars have
Well,
signed off on it.
that's sacred now, but
So I would, I want to go to the people I trust most. And it was none of you. So I said, let's bring Scott Wolter back, because if anybody knows about the Templars, it's this guy. He's got a series called Mysteries of the Knights Templar, and it is on Gaia TV. You can check it out. We've got a link for it in tonight's program guide. And he's got a lot of other cool projects we're going to talk about in a little bit. But ladies and gentlemen, to help sort out the insanity that is the Oreo mystery, Scott Wolter's back. 2 weeks.
Yay! Great to see you guys again. Thanks for having me back so soon. And what is the topic tonight, Dave?
Well,
Cookies.
yeah, cookies.
Cookies.
Starting off with Oreos,
Oh,
guys. I send this picture
That's
over to
interesting.
Scott Wolter, and I say, Scott, look at this lunacy. And what does he send back to me? Oh, yeah, I covered that in my book. And sure enough, he did. It's in his book.
No, I did. Yes.
What is going on here?
Well, first and foremost, you talk about the Templar treasure and,
Right.
the show that's on right now, The Curse of Oak Island. These morons don't realize they're looking for the Templar treasure. Why don't they use the damn cookie? It's right there,
Right.
hidden in plain sight, right?
Yeah. That's why we're going to create our own movie called Real National Treasure, and it incorporates Oreos right there.
There you go.
Could you imagine? It's just like one night after the show, I'm sitting here, I've got a map spread out in front of me, and I'm drinking my shot of Screwball whiskey, and then I look down and I notice that the cookie, and I rotate the cookie, and now it lines up with the map compass, and all of a sudden,
Dave, come on.
oh, what? Am I
Wow.
giving away secrets of your new
Don't be
TV
giving
series?
it away. Come on now.
Uh-huh. All right. Well, let's
You were
get into this.
initiated into the order of the Oreo cookie, and you have to keep your secrets.
Oh, and by the way, I'm going to give away one secret. The high sign is this.
Oh,
It is the dipping of the
Nice.
Oreo into the milk.
Dunking
That's
it.
you're a part of the
You're not
mo-
supposed to
yeah,
say what
Hey,
it
you're
is.
giving away the secret. Stop it.
I'm just being Scott Wolter. Scott Wolter sheds all the secrets. He puts them out in the light to be seen.
All right.
So
All
let's
right.
talk about this craziness that is the Oreo cookie.
Well, I mean, obviously, you've got a lot of strange symbolism that all seems to be coalescing here.
Right.
And, you know, you talked about the 12 apostles, the 12 bars, the 12 dots, the 12 Templar crosses that appeared to be encircling the center area, which could be interpreted as being the tomb of Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and their family. And, you know, why do we say that? Well, if you go back to that last graphic.
Yeah. Wait, I'm letting it, like a good Oreo,
Does-
digest right now that you just said that this is like the tomb of Jesus and his family. The Oreo is the gateway to the
Wow.
Messiah, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Dave, I told you the initiation into the order of the Oreo is profound and deep and important.
Shocked
And
that he
now I'm
good,
going to
yes.
reveal the secret. Now, if you look to the left, you see a beautiful AVM, which stands for Ave Virgo Maria, right?
Right.
Many people equate that with Mary Magdalene, and they would be correct. Below that, you see the double-barred cross of Lorraine, which you mentioned, which was the patriarchal cross that the Templars were carrying when they entered Jerusalem, when they first defeated, captured Jerusalem back in 1118. Now, on the right, you have something that's different. And you have what we call a chevron circle. And what is that all about? And yeah, I just want you to know there's a difference between the AVM and the chevron circle. And the difference is the chevron circle is in the double stuff Oreo cookie. Okay.
Obviously.
There we go.
That's
The
all good.
superior Oreo.
Yeah.
So what does that mean? It's double extra secret special.
Wow.
Oh.
Wow.
Okay. Now, Dave,
Yes.
I want you to flash up that picture of, and before we go too far, of our panel here, how many, raise your hand, or no, better yet, take a drink.
Mm.
If you know what the Telpiot tomb is, I got one guy drinking. That's it. Dave?
You guys, two of us.
That's right. Dave, you'd better be drinking. So you
Yeah.
better flash the picture. Do you have it?
I have it.
Wow.
This is what's left of the front room of an underground chamber that dates back to the 1st century.
Did the Keebler
Yeah.
elves make this? Is that who built this?
This
looks like
this
the
was
color
made-
of the Oreo.
A lot of people think this is an underground tomb that was financed by Joseph of Arimathea, who is very wealthy and apparently was very close to Jesus and Mary and their family. Now, I'm not making this up, okay? In 1980, when they were building, there was construction going on, building apartments in the East Telpiot neighborhood, hence the name Telpiot Tomb. They blasted the hillside and they discovered this 1st century tomb. Inside, they found 10 bone boxes. 7 of them were inscribed, 6 in Aramaic, 1 in Greek. And the names were names like, I'm not making this up, Jesus, son of Joseph, James, son of Joseph, brother of Jesus, Joseph, Matthew, Judah, son of Jesus. I'm missing one. Matthew, Joseph. I forget the 6th one that was in Aramaic, but the 7th one was in Greek. And it says Mariamne the Mara. The Mara is a title of honor, as in Lord, Master, or Queen. And Mariamne refers to only Mary Magdalene in the Acts of Philip. So what you've got here is Jesus, Mary Magdalene, and Judah, son of Jesus. So when we talk about a secret, it was discovered in 1980. And of course, it was immediately suppressed, right? That's why you guys haven't heard about it. But isn't this interesting? And what is also interesting is that these symbols that occurred on the Oreo cookie predate the discovery of this tomb. Now, there's a lot of other reasons why this is the tomb of Jesus and Mary Magdalene and their family. I don't have time to go into it. But how did these people that made the Oreo cookie know about this before the tomb was discovered?
Hey, Scott, I had a quick question. Isn't that AVM symbol depicted in the painting, The Last Supper, somewhere?
Well, actually, actually it is, but you have to do a little moving of the individuals in the picture, and you will make an AVM. Actually, what Da Vinci did is he hid Mary Magdalene and their son in the Last Supper painting. And I could show you, actually, I could refer you to an interesting video about 10 years ago, a secret society that is unnamed, possibly the Order of the Oreo Cookie, but I digress, released a video called The Last Supper Baby. And if you want to Google that, it's about 2.5 minutes long. It's only music, and you'll crap your pants. Seriously.
I don't want to do that.
I do.
Well, then
we have to for
something
science
else,
and
but
research.
you will be amazed.
I don't mind.
Yeah, so we're
We
all,
know.
all the guys.
We know.
All guys are on board for a good crapping. If we learn about this. So, all right, this is Scott. Obviously, I send this original meme to you, expecting you to be like, "Oh, Schrader, people have way too much time on their hands," and then you send me a page from your book where you
And
are
then I
one of
just
those
went
people.
off the deep end, right? But hey, Dave, this falls under the category of there's too many coincidences for this to be a coincidence, right?
Right.
And,
Love it.
I mean, what do you guys think? Honestly, what do you think? You think this is BS, or do you think there's something going on here?
I just find it amazing how they actually, so what you're saying is that they had that symbol on the cookie before it was actually, the tomb was actually discovered.
Correct. But what I will tell you, if you want to know, is that when they excavated that burial chamber, they found 3 skulls on the floor of the burial chamber that had been, I don't want to go too deep down the well, but what I will tell you is they probably were 3 Templar knights that died during the siege of Jerusalem back in the early 12th century, who would have been honored to have their skulls placed inside the tomb in the east, west, and southern quadrants of the tomb. That's not a coincidence either. That's where the 3 highest officers sit in a Masonic lodge and in a Templar commandery, but as symbolic guardians of the royal family, of whom the leadership of the Templars in the 12th century were the ideological and biological descendants of. And the whole story of what happened with the Templars in Jerusalem isn't what you've been told. I'll just leave it at that.
I swear to God, Scott Wolter, if you tell me that the name of those 3 Templar knights were Snap, Crackle, and Pop, I'm never letting you back on this show again.
No, sweet tea. There was one sweet tea.
Oh, good. All right. That makes total
Thank
sense.
you.
So, a quick question for you on the regular Oreo. What did you call it? The Ava what?
Ave Virgo Maria, AVM.
That also looks a lot like the Masonic logo.
You are correct, sir. And if you ask me, is there a connection? The answer is yes, there is.
Is there a connection?
There is.
Excellent. I like that. I can
Good
follow,
question there, Dave.
follow
You
that.
know-
That was actually a really good call. And Dave, I'm going to have you hold that thought for a minute, because it's going to come back when you least expect it
Right.
in
Because
this conversation.
because as we discussed before the show, Scott goes, Dave, Oreos aren't the only ones that have got some hidden symbology. And I'm going to show you a few others, and then I'm going to show you a real brain twister. And I said, okay, bring it on. Let's bring it on. So the first one that we've got here is Nabisco.
Who makes Oreos, right?
Oh,
Yeah, you
right,
see that oval,
right.
the ellipse? We have an ellipse in front of the White House, don't we?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, must be a coincidence. And that cross of Lorraine, Nabisco. And what were the colors of that logo?
That would be red and white.
And what are the colors of the Templars?
Red and white.
Another coincidence, I'm sure.
Can I ask something? I don't mean to sound ridiculous at this, but as I'm looking at the cookie itself, I got to go back to the Oreo. Do we know anything about the letters in OREO?
Yes, it's funny you should ask that. Okay?
Well, not really, because that's what my job is.
Wow.
Well, let me just tell you what I wrote in my book.
Please.
That was referred to me by one Alan Butler one of the most brilliant men I've ever met. He's got a wonderful wife, Kate. He was a guest on our show, America on Earth, a few times. But he said the first thing that he offered was a Latin possibility for Oreo. Ossuarium, Regina, Eternus, Omnipotens. And his wife, Kate, is proficient in Latin. And she said it was a perfectly good line for tomb of the eternal and all-powerful queen. Given the ABM, the Cross of Lorraine, and the Templar Cross's symbolism, this queen could only be referring to Mary Magdalene. And who did I tell you was buried in there, whose ossuary or bone box was carved in Greek?
Double M.
Mary Magdalene.
That's crazy.
Now
That is
we're
totally
getting
crazy.
into, we're on to something now. Either that or we're on something.
All right, hold on.
Here's to that.
Hold on. The paranormal detective wants to detect a little something. Yes, Greg, you have the floor.
You know, the interesting thing is the underlying things that are not shared amongst like organizations and things like that. And one of them in homicide is there's no such thing as a coincidence when it
Exactly.
comes to a homicide.
You are.
And in
absolutely
this
right.
case, when you're looking at more than three things that all point back, humans are very symbolic, and we're always sending messages. And this is a perfect example of all the things that surround us all day long that we're just completely unaware of.
It's called hidden in plain sight.
Mhm.
And I'll tell you one thing that I learned long before I became a Freemason. This probably was 20 years ago when I was talking to some very enlightened Freemasons that I used to hang around with that are now my Masonic brothers. And I don't even remember the question that I asked, but he looked at me deadpan and he just said, if you're worthy of knowing, you'll figure it out on your own. And I always remember that because, you know, sometimes I think when we get to a point where we want to know the answer to something, we're really close and it's right there, we want to get the quick answer. But what I found is that if you just sort of sit back, you think, you work on it a little bit longer, it'll come to you. And I like to think that when it does, that means we were worthy. I don't know.
Very good. I like it. Well, let's look at some more hidden in plain sight. The
Oh.
American Lung Association.
Wow.
Yeah. Fighting for air. They were buried under the ground
That-
fighting
that-
for air.
No, I
No?
never thought of that.
Oh.
That's a good one.
Well, just a thought. And then here's the third one.
Oh, this is my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the Exxon logo. So explain this to us.
Okay, so the way I interpret this
Mhm.
is you've got the Cross of Lorraine, right? With the two X's, and it's leaning to the left, right? And of course, you got to remember that the Templar legend is that after the put down, the Templars disappeared with their treasures. The King of France and the Pope were stymied. They got away before they could raid the treasury and get the treasures. And the mystery has always been what happened to it. Well, this logo right here tells us that the Templars took their treasures and it's leaning to the left, which is to the west. Across the water, the blue represents the Atlantic Ocean. And what is far to the west? North America, what they called the New Jerusalem. Brother Francis Bacon called it the New Atlantis. The tradition also called it the New Free Templar State. What we now call it today is the United States of America.
Not familiar.
I don't.
Is that
I've heard
is
of
it
it.
far from here? Yeah.
What
We're
do you
not a
think,
bright
guys?
bunch.
Is that a bridge too far?
No, that is cool. Cool stuff. How there's so many things that are hidden in plain sight for you to see.
Exactly.
Knowing you, and there are secrets I will not divulge. Knowing you, and you've pointed out some interesting things to me to look for. Now I see some symbology in items that I never noticed before, and it's been like, wow, holy cow, maybe they do know something. So it's been pretty cool following your lead in reading your books, and then it kind of awakens you. It awakens you to seeing patterns in a different way. I liken it to, I got a 3D camera and I learned to start taking 3D pictures because I just thought it looked so compelling and interesting. And what I noticed was after a while, you start seeing in a 3D form of how a picture would look better. And it's like reading your books and seeing some of the storylines and some of the things that have been there. Now, when I look at things and examine it, it's like you can see the story in multi-layers that's been laid out in front of us for a long time in a lot of famous documents and paintings and public locations. So I'm always thrilled to get a chance to see some of this stuff. Now, I do want to say, I mentioned that with a little bit of trepidation. There are a few churches, medieval churches in Europe, where there have been things that have appeared like an astronaut. And you could see this. It's very clearly a NASA astronaut. And people are like, see, this is proof. However, if you do more research, you find out that there was a point where they were reconstructing part of that facade because it had fallen apart and collapsed. And when they rebuilt it, the church said, let's add new things that have happened since the formation. So they included the astronaut. Right. And so people make a lot of leaps of assumption without finding out the history behind some of these pieces. So I'm always fascinated by looking at the multi-levels of what's going on and then trying to find the story behind them. So I encourage people to do that. And if you have a hard time with it and would like more, maybe you should watch Mysteries of the Knights Templar on Gaia. And thank God we've got a link for that on tonight's program guide. But as if one show wasn't enough, Scott's got another show called Mysteries of the Knights Templar, Holy Grail Legends. When is this coming out?
No, this is the episode that aired this week. So we have 10 episodes, Mysteries of the Knights Templar. That's the show. Oh. But each one of these is a different episode that's every week. We've had a total of 5 episodes so far. We got 5 more. And this week's is Mysteries, Holy Grail Legends.
Gotcha. Very cool.
Yeah.
And then he's got his new book, Oak Island Knights Templar and the Holy Grail Secrets of the Underground Project Revealed. And when is that book going to finally be out and available?
Probably around March 1st. So my publisher is just doing the finishing touches. I've looked at a couple of layout designs and I'm going through it right now and it's coming together really good. But I will say this, and I'm curious to get your thought, guys. You know, the show Curse of Oak Island is airing right now. And the guy that I'm writing this book with, they have contacted him multiple times to try to get him on the show to share the stuff that we have. But he said no. He and I have an agreement. But one of the things that we're not going to do is reveal everything that we have, because once you publish it, they can take it, they can use it on the show, make millions of dollars, and we get paid nothing. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover up some stuff. We're going to redact certain things so that when the show is over, we'll come out with a second edition and then we'll reveal everything. But I'm going to be honest with people and say, this is why we're not sharing everything. Nothing against the brothers, but look, there's nothing there, okay? It's gone. And we're just not going to give them free content. And I'm dead serious about that. They literally are making millions of dollars, bringing people in and just making stuff up and having a great time.
Allegedly.
No, that's right.
Allegedly. So if you want the secrets that Scott's not willing to share, watch for the new Holiday Oreo Triple Stuff edition, where they will be releasing all the secrets of Oak Island on that. Hey, real quick, I do want to make a quick mention. We've got to buzz through these and then get to your last big reveal. Okay. For all of our listeners out there that love to travel, love to see historic, amazing places, and wish you could go with Dave Schrader, but damn it, all of his trips are always sold out. Well, the second best guy is available. Scott Wolter has the Path of Initiation, exploring the initiatory traditions in Spain and Portugal. It's going to take place May 16th through the 27th of 2024. Again, we have a link for Scott's website. All this information is on that. Then if you want to go out in June, you can quest for the Holy Grail in Scotland.
And we'll be on that one too.
Yep. And these are all Scott Wolter programs. And then France, the Knights Templar, the Cathars, and the Lost Treasure Tour, October 2nd through the 13th. And there's only 17 spots available right now.
Yeah, and there's less than that now. So tell people to hurry up and sign up. But get in touch with me if you're interested. It's going to be fantastic. We are going to be initiating people. teaching them about all this. What we're going to do is give them, as you alluded to, Dave, the eyes to see. And once you understand the symbolism, the signs, symbols, and tokens that are out there, you'll never see the world the same way again. It's like you're driving down the road, you're going, I get it now. So it's really good stuff, and they're a lot of fun, and everything is done first class. Haley does an amazing job setting these up. It's going to be a blast. So check it out.
We can all put on our glasses and see the world in a new perspective. All right, so our final adventure together is here. You told me about a painting that you thought was pretty interesting, and with the popularity of the Da Vinci Code and all of the things that we've kind of been told over the years, you dropped a new bomb on me. So let's start there.
Okay. So why don't you throw up the painting, and then I want you guys to tell me what you see. And if you don't know what this is, I can explain it to you. But that's, of course, the Virgin Mary in blue back there. And that is supposed to be Jesus on the right and John the Baptist on the left as children. And that begs the question, who is that pretty woman sitting over there on the right with auburn hair in orange, dressed in orange and green? Anybody care to guess?
No.
How about you, Colonel? You got any insights?
No, none that I can think of.
Okay. Well,
Chachi?
I'm gonna. Oh, go ahead.
Nothing from Chachi, apparently.
Nothing.
How about you, Greg? You want to fathom a guess there?
John's mom.
John's mom. Interesting. Okay.
I feel like a
Maybe they're just having a play
date.
date.
Yeah.
It looks like a play day to me. I don't know.
I'm going
I
to give
don't-
you guys a clue, a couple of
Okay.
clues.
All right.
The colors in art of Mary Magdalene,
Right.
her clothes are always orange and green. Green for her Celtic ideology and tells something about her heritage. And orange is the region in France that she disappeared to, according to the legend, after the crucifixion, when she escaped to Egypt, gave birth to her second child, and then escaped into in southern France in the Orange region. So that's Mary Magdalene. But that creates a huge problem. What is the problem?
She's Cougar Town.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Considerably
She's
older.
Cougar Town.
Yeah,
But the
considerably
problem
older than
is,
Jesus.
in this painting, that is supposed to be Jesus and John the Baptist, right?
Right.
And that can't be, because Mary Magdalene and Jesus and John were contemporaries in age. So if that's not who they are, who are those children?
Jesus Jr., John Jr.
Oh, is it Judah and Walt? Their two children?
Well, you're right about one.
It was
The
Larry.
one on the right, the one on the right
Mhm.
is the son that Mary Magdalene had with Jesus. His name is Judah. That's correct. But who's the guy on the left that she's pointing to?
He's a little bastard.
Is that the
child.
anti-Judah?
here's the
If we have
bomb,
an
guys.
antichrist, is it an anti-Judah?
No, here's the bomb. You ready?
Yes.
Ready.
That is the son that Mary Magdalene had with John the Baptist.
What?
Now remember,
She's
the
awesome.
Essenic tradition of the Essenic tradition of the first century that
Right.
Mary and Jesus and John were all a part of.
Right.
To be a rabbi in the first century, you were, number one, required to be married. Number two, you were required to have a son for succession. This is not a debate. This is not a discussion. This is fact. So what happened was, Mary Magdalene was married to John the Baptist. They had a son. His name was Jesus. That's who that is on the left. When he was beheaded, the priestly line went through the feminine, through Mary Magdalene. And a family member of John's was obligated to marry her. And that's what Jesus did. And they had another son. So that's who is depicted in this painting. Now, if you look at Mary You see how she's pointing?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Wait. Now,
Yeah,
if I
right.
rotate that like that, there's your AVM and your compass and square.
Oh, yeah.
And she is pointing to the initiator. Remember, it was John the Baptist who initiated Jesus, right? Baptized
Him. Right.
So now Leonardo da Vinci painted this in 1493, and he presented it to the Church of the Immaculate Conception. And when they saw the painting, they looked at him and they said, "F you, do it again." So we did.
Oh.
What's different?
No pointing hand. I love this game. Circle the differences between the two pictures. I was always good at this at Denny's. Yeah.
Well, the hand is gone. That's
No more orange.
She's got
no
the
more
wings.
orange.
She's got the wings on her back now.
She's got the wings. Can't have Mary Magdalene in there. That's an angel. What else do we notice?
There's a cross.
The cross. Yep. And the halos. See the halos?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Mhm.
On the children, Jesus, John, and Mary, the Virgin. Now, that painting is hanging in that church in France, and the first one is hanging in the Louvre in Paris.
Wow.
So now you know the secret that Leonardo da Vinci preserved in that painting, which is something you've never heard before, have you?
Nope.
No.
That is
No.
a secret that we were allowed to reveal in my which book did I reveal? Oh, it was in Cryptic Code. I forget.
He forgot because he forgot the code to crack the cover of his book.
But you know what? Everybody missed it. Nobody caught it.
No, that is pretty amazing. However, we do have one of our listeners who challenges your theory and thinks he can identify who the two children are. Will Ferrell and John C. Riley.
Oh,
They
yeah.
are. You called me out. What the hell?
Really
You look
good.
uncanny. Did we just become
was-
best holy friends?
Wasn't that Step Brothers, that movie?
Yes.
Oh, it was great. And they
Ah.
were wearing, and Will Ferrell was wearing that Pablo Cruz shirt. Remember
Yep.
that?
Yeah.
That was one of my favorite bands in high school, and I saw him about 3 years ago. It was fantastic.
Excellent.
So,
Scott
Sweetie,
Wolter,
what do you think?
Wow. I
Amazing.
don't know what to
Amazing.
think.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's one of those things where depending on, you know, what your belief systems are and your, you know, your proclivities as far as these big questions go, sometimes it's hard for people to fit that in their brain. But you got to admit, there's some pretty cool stuff going on there. And if nothing
yeah.
else, I'm hoping that it just makes people sort of think outside the box. How about that?
Listen,
Yeah.
if you talk for 5 more minutes, I'm convinced. That's it. That's what I'm
Okay,
saying.
well, let's go.
I love how the fact that when I ask Scott to come on, he goes, "I'll come on, but I'm not just going to talk about Oreos." He has to give me good stuff too.
So,
He refused to be. All right, listen, I'll take your stupid Oreo bet, Dave, but we're going to talk about other important things.
We're going to amp it up a little.
Challenge accepted.
Very cool. Scott Wolter, thank you again so much. We have a link for Scott and his shows, and we look forward to talking to you again, Scott. Hopefully, we'll give you a couple weeks off before we need to call on you to
Oh,
help us
that's
understand
okay.
more.
Maybe next
secrets.
week.
Look
No,
at the
this is
fireworks
what's
behind
going on
Marty.
with the Colonel?
I don't know. The Colonel's celebrating in a big way.
I'm just so happy. I've just learned something new.
That's awesome.
Cool. Well,
a
thanks
lot,
for having me, guys. It was great to see you again, and we'll do it again soon, okay?
Please.
Sounds great.
Hey,
Thank you very much, sir. Amazing stuff, isn't it, guys? You feel
Yeah.
like you got a handle on stuff, and then, like I said, I totally sent him that Oreo meme as a good laugh, and then when he sends me a page from his book, he's like, "I don't think you should laugh so easily, Schrader." So she goes, "I'm like, what kind of rude moron?" And he goes, I feel bad. I must have skipped that page in the book when I don't remember Scott Wolter writing any book that had Oreos in it. I'm pretty sure that would have been my favorite of all.
Seriously.
There
I
are
did
so many.
say last week
Yeah.
we would have Scott back on when he had something actually we wanted to talk about.
And
Exactly.
Oreo,
Yeah.
Say that. We
We'll
did say.
say
he's well
during
worth
part
it.
of his conversation,
Yeah.
You know,
was
I
really
have
curious
a-
for a moment because I did a little research of my own.
Oh.
Oh.
That's why you were so
Yes.
quiet. Yes.
Yes, I was very quiet because I was researching.
Huh.
So Oreos,
Yes.
obviously for the upper crust of society.
Mhm.
Thank
What we
you.
need to talk about is what's on the Hydrox cookie.
Whoa.
Hydrox,
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
generic Oreo.
Uh-huh.
Oh yeah, look that up.
Is,
Wow.
is there a mystery
You're not going
on
to tell
that?
I've
us?
got a book coming out.
Oh,
You got a book coming out. Is it kind of like Indiana Jones when the guy burns the
Yeah.
the medallion on his hand? He's only
Yeah,
got parts of
Hydrox.
the deal. The Hydrox has the rest of the story.
Exactly.
That's it.
they
That's
were
amazing.
first, so.
Very cool.
I don't
That
know.
is
Good
so
stuff,
weird.
but I'm really hungry now.
Yeah. Let's well, you guys could take a break while
Right.
we take this little commercial break. We'll be right back right after this. Hey friends, it's available now. My brand new book, Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness. If you want cool, creepy, and very weird stories that you can read and share with your friends, family, and children, this is the book for you. If you'd like to order a standard copy, only $20. Signed copy, just $30 plus $7.95 shipping and handling. Where can you order it? At paranormal60.com. That's paranormal60.com. We will have the digital version coming out hopefully within the month and the audio version within the next 45 to 60 days. But right now, the paperback edition is out and available. You can get it on Amazon or you can buy it direct through my website and get the signed copies. And please do me a favor. If you get it from Amazon, make sure to rate and review the book after you read it. If you love it, give it 5 stars and great compliments. If you don't, take that secret to the grave. It's time to shift the paranormal. I said shift the paranormal. We're going to be back at the Palmer House, and I'm going to be there with Dalen Spratt from the Ghost Brothers, Lights Out, Ghost Brothers Fright Club, and more. Dalen and I will be shifting the paranormal, communicating with the dead, and we would love you to come out. There are only 10 tickets that remain for the weekend event. 2 nights of paranormal investigations, 2 days of cool presentations, talks, and a live gallery session with a medium. We'd love to have you there. We'd love you to come on out and spend some time with us. You can get more information about that at darknessevents.com. Welcome back to the program. This is the best in paranormal programming. This is the Paranormal 60 News. My Paranormal 60 News crew is on hand. Chachi, the Colonel, Sweet Tea, and Greg. We're all here. We're drinking, and we're here to have fun with you. We've got some weird stories to cover in this last section of the show. Greg, it's time for you to take control of the capsule and tell us what the big news is this week.
I feel like I should.
Mhm.
You know, we been seeing a lot of stuff on Buzz Aldrin, right? Reliving all of his exploits and stuff as a American hero and astronaut.
Right.
And there's a lot of stuff going around on social media right now that has him quoted as saying things like it didn't happen, we didn't go there, and that sort of stuff. So, yeah.
Right. We talked a little bit about that last week, talking about the moon hoax and conspiracy. And then I said it's weird that this video has been zipping around. And I admitted I haven't had a chance to go out there and fully involve myself in researching and looking into how much of this is true, what is being taken out of context. And you took that on as a bit of a challenge, Greg. What did you find out for us?
Yeah, I took kind of a deep dive on this thing, being a NASA guy and all.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting thing is you look at some of these that are being passed around. There's one that was recorded at the Oxford Union, and I think it was pretty recent. And somebody from the audience had asked him a question, and the response, the audio response on the video is, it didn't happen. So they were asking about the moon landing and that sort of thing. And the audio response in that video is, it didn't happen. Now, what I find interesting about this is, if you're looking at this video and you look at it for any amount of time, and then you kind of scroll through some other stuff, some more Buzz Aldrin videos pop up. Imagine that. I'm not sure, it's like magic. It's a coincidence, right?
Kind of a famous guy, so.
Yeah. And there's another one. There's a really cute one with a little girl.
Real quick, if I remember correctly, when he said it didn't happen, they were referring to Apollo 11, right? Which didn't land on the moon. So he was like, well, that didn't happen. So people are just, the moon landing didn't happen. He was just referring to the one flight that did not go there.
Well, we can talk about the National Book Festival.
Yes.
With the little girl, and she's asking him, and why haven't we gone back? She has this kind of a pretty adult question that she gives to him. And the audio comes back as, we didn't go there. So that just kind of makes you wonder, you're watching this stuff. You're like, well, is he just getting older and now he's forgetting the lies he's supposed to tell? Or is something else going on? The one on Conan is pretty good, and because the audio refers to animations. Now, they were talking about animations because when they were doing all this, obviously they couldn't have a camera crew sitting on the moon watching it land, or they couldn't have a camera crew doing those sorts of things in space. So they were using types of animation to explain how things were happening, how things would work. But yeah, on Conan as well, they kind of add into that. But you asked me to do a deep dive. I told you I would. And man, you can find 200 videos online of him talking about when they landed on the moon. So
and didn't he like slug some dude for telling him that they didn't land on the moon?
Yeah, that guy's name was Bart Sibrel or something like that.
Simpson.
Yeah,
it's pronounced
like
Simpson. Yeah.
Yeah, he looks a little bit like Bart Simpson. Buzz Aldrin, that guy kind of got right in front of him and was accusing him of lying and accusing him of all this false stuff. And Buzz had just about enough and did what a good American hero should do, and punch you right in the nose for being an idiot. So
allegedly,
the funny thing about that is, I remember when all that happened, and the guy Bart actually goes on some shows after that, and he was talking about getting punched, and he was talking about the prosecutor denied prosecution. At court, they denied prosecution, and Bart says, because Buzz is a celebrity. Well, no, that's not why it was, and that's not why it was written up. They decided not to prosecute because he was provoking him, and any reasonable person would take only so much before they punch you in the head. And they went, yeah, you deserved every bit of it. They didn't do that because he also apologized for it. Bart apologized for behaving that way, but he's still
as he should.
Thesis is just going to keep donating money till we answer his question. So I'm just going to leave the question alone until he hits that $100 mark.
Oh no, no more money, please, no.
He says, I think the real conspiracy is that double stuffed Oreos should be twice as expensive, yet they're not. Explain that.
Exactly. Oh man, that is a good point.
Makes you
Yeah,
wonder.
Talking about
I like
that,
it.
actually.
I like his other comment. If I'm being honest, the painting just proves Da Vinci had a type. Not too bad.
Wow.
It was
And,
usually a man, but yeah.
he really
Yeah.
wants us to
Hey.
weigh in on the old
What?
birds aren't real. They're government drones. Their eyes are camera. P.S. Drinking Summit Saga IPA. Wanted Scott's input, but I'll accept anyone's opinion at this point. I'm sorry. When we have a major guest on, like TV Scott Wolter, I was so immersed in his conversation that I forgot to look over here, Thee. So I'm sorry for that. But as far as your birds aren't real scenario, you, sir, are a loon. And that's a real bird. So I appreciate all the donations to get to the truth. It was an expensive truth to be taught, but now you know.
But
Man, every time Scott comes on, I just think about 1,000 questions I want to ask him. He's a really fascinating guy. I have a couple of things I would love to share with him, but
Yeah. I
why-
hope they're not the
Yeah,
nudes you
offline.
keep sending to
a
the
couple of
rest of
things.
Yeah.
yeah,
There's a couple of things I'd like to share with him.
So
I don't know one wants
overall,
that.
the deep dive you found was that those videos are all being truncated. They're being taken out of context. You're not understanding the full breadth of the questions that were being asked. And so that's great point. And I did have quite a few listeners send me links as well to articles showing the debunked aspect of that. So thank you to all of our intrepid viewers. First of all, and let me say this. Thank you to the viewers and listeners that send in and say, hey, Dave, I don't know if you saw this follow-up article, or if you saw this, it was printed 4 years ago. It might have gone under your radar. Those I appreciate. When I get, hey, you and your dumbass friends could spend about 8 seconds online and have found the answer to that. Well, there's better ways to talk to us than that. I mean, Greg and Sweet Tea, sure, we understand you speaking
Yeah.
that way.
Obvious.
But the
Wait.
three of us,
it happens. Yeah.
I
Come on.
keep sending that message to you, and nobody pays attention.
Well, you know what? The one thing I'm really amazed about is the fact that Chachi's in a dry county, and he's been drinking now for
Thank
the last
you.
10 minutes.
Multiple different kinds of beers.
wait, where did that
Drinking
come
anything.
from?
Yeah.
Grizzly?
The fridge, the mini
Josh
fridge.
will always find libations, okay?
Oh, is that why you got silent during that part when there was a picture up? Were you running to a
I
local?
ran like you
food
wouldn't
store?
believe.
Here it
This
is.
guy showed up at the door.
I need beer. I'm TV's Chachi.
That's
He
right.
yelled out the window.
He didn't
Yeah.
run anywhere.
That's
You
amazing.
didn't run anywhere. I'm calling you on that.
Wow. Phew, my good God. So listen, when it comes to the moonshot, and you weren't here last week, Colonel, I'm just curious what your insights are. Do you believe that we did, in fact, as a member of the military, do you believe that we did land on the moon?
Absolutely, without a doubt. And I'll tell you the reason why, Dave.
Okay, please.
Because for that many decades now, you would think that there would be at least a handful of individuals that said, hey, I was part of the studio. I was in the studio. I got a rock from the studio that we filmed this at. I know there's folks that say, yeah, there's evidence and, there is various types of directors that were involved in the filming of it. But I just think that it would have been something like, look at Roswell. You have, so after a certain amount of time, you start seeing people coming out saying, hey, man, I was there. I saw it, da-da-da. But you really don't see that as much with this.
Well, I think what's interesting to me about that, and it's a great point you bring up, is you're right. It's hard to hide that much. But there is Stanley Kubrick, after his passing, there was audio released of him talking about working for the government, filming something. And I've often wondered, let me just throw this out to you. All right, we made it to the moon. We sent film up there. Now, do you remember in the 1970s and 80s when we first started going through detectors at airports? You had to tell them if you had film, because if you went through, the film would be wiped out. So we shoot to the moon. We pass through radiation belts. Could there be a chance that the footage was destroyed? And what they did was refilm some of these scenes so that we would have that memory of what took place and have that. Would you buy into that fact that maybe it was reenacted at a later time to preserve the memory of what actually took place. Chachi, what are your thoughts?
It's not what I was expecting you to say, Dave. Quite honestly.
What, Chachi, what are your thoughts? Me neither, but
Yeah.
here we are.
Here we are. Yep.
I find that to be a very interesting thought. Now, is the purpose of that, Dave, in your question, that future generations who will have forgotten about the fact that we did or did not land will have this memory of seeing this video? Is that your thought there?
Well, I think it's that. I think it's double-sided, though, right? It's like, if, I've been there and I've got the picture to prove it. If you say, we went to the moon, where's the footage? Yeah, it was kind of destroyed through the radiation belt. That to me might call into question. And I think there was a lot of pressure to make sure that we had something. So I often wonder, in some of the photographs that originally released, there were what looked like lights in the visors that were later removed. Could that be that those were studio lights for the reenacted shots, so that they would have, because there's some really clean, beautiful pictures from that moonwalk.
So
that's what they were doing. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Greg.
There was quite a bit of footage that was lost, and they did do some cleaning up of a lot of the footage because it was very grainy. That camera that they used to watch Neil Armstrong go down the ladder, that was mounted on the outside of the lunar lander, and just that camera alone cost $2 million right there. Just that one camera, because it had to be protected the way that it has to be in space.
But explains why the picture and the video quality is so poor.
$2 million, boom.
Yeah.
And
So-
it's also being transmitted 250,000 miles back to Earth.
You're such an apologist.
If we hadn't gone, wouldn't our enemies, such as the USSR at the time, have made a big deal of the fact that they faked it? And they never came out and said that, right?
Yeah, good point.
Right.
Good point. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I said last week. Russia and China have been past there, and they can see on the moon, and you could see the garbage we left behind, like the lunar lander and all
Oreo
of that.
wrappers.
So, yeah, they would. If I firmly believe if they were able to see up there and there was nothing, they would have been the first to say, America full of baloney. That's my Russian, right?
Well,
That's very
especially
good.
with
Full of
how
vodka,
competitive
Moonshot.
it was trying to get the first person on the moon. If there's, and even today, if they were to be able to prove that wasn't the case, I guarantee you they would say something.
So the Russians at that time were beating us at almost everything in space. And so,
They still beat us. They put a dog in space. We haven't. Snoopy, he can only go up so high on a Sopwith camel.
Can we do that now?
Yeah.
Yes.
And for someone from NASA, even in the NASA uniform in mission control, to admit that's pretty big.
No, it was a big deal. We lost on it in a lot of different ways. If you watch, there's a Netflix show, For All Mankind, and it is an
Great show.
alternative. It's an alternative history of that, and I'm working on a project similar to that right now. So
Cool. See, my thing is, if they were to do all of this, like they didn't have the technology to fake it. I don't think. It's like with Gimlin. It's like the Bigfoot footage.
Gimmer.
It's like
the old
Shut up.
Gimmer guy.
shut up. You can't. Back then, they didn't have the technology to fake how realistic it was.
Yeah.
And also, I had to think. I mean, you got to think that they had to know that there was radiation to protect at least most of the film to bring it back.
And then, and then they have a capsule that comes in from like wherever it came in from, the sky into the ocean, and be able to film all that. Come on now.
Yeah, come on.
That's a lot of
From the
work.
sky. I love that.
Yeah, it came in
So
from the sky. From
The heavens, yes.
So y'all
So-
think they were using just film to record that? Is
I
that
don't know what they
you're
were
saying?
using, but I'm sure they knew enough to protect it
Yeah.
to get back here.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. And how much of it was actually transmitted?
TV, yes.
So
They
much.
don't. There is a whole lot of weight when it comes to film. You don't want to tote.
Wow. Wow.
You don't want to tote a whole bunch of film around with you. You want to transmit that stuff. So, there
And
you
I
go.
think Buzz is referring to a fellow NASA employee.
Wow. Well,
No, good points. I like it. It's worth having the discussion, right? It's worth talking about.
yeah,
I-
really.
I'm more interested on the dark side of the moon, to see what's,
The album?
Music now? What? Oh, no.
no, the reports that there was something on the other side of the moon, that they did see structures.
Where the moon base is.
Yeah. So that to me is fascinating. I wish we could go a little deeper into that aspect.
Could we get
listen.
Scott back on to talk about that?
What?
Could we get Scott back on to talk about that?
He doesn't know about that.
Oh, he doesn't know about that.
There's some things he draws the line in the
I find that
sand.
hard to believe.
I don't know. I find that hard to believe. I'm sure.
Did you ask
Wait a minute,
him?
You didn't read my third book, The Dark Side of the Moon?
Yeah. Is by the way, they're re-releasing the Dark Side of the Moon special edition album later this year. I just saw Pink Floyd announce that. So
The Nutter Butter Peanut Butter Sandwich Cookie.
all right, let's move on. We've got two other things to cover here in the extended director's cut Paranormal 60 News. Mine is a pretty short little story, but I thought this was pretty cool. If you guys are familiar with the actor Jake Johnson, or is it Jake Johansson?
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, Jake Gyllenhaal. No, that's not him. It's the guy from New Girl and from Jurassic World. I love this guy. Great guy. He does the voice of Peter B. Parker in the Spider-Man Into the Multiverse cartoons. Fun guy. He recently appeared on a podcast, and I wanted to play this video and then discuss with you. So let's take a listen to what happened.
Tell this story a lot because I don't get it. I was sitting next to my mom. I was in 4th grade. Out of nowhere, my mother turns to me and goes, "You're not going to school tomorrow." And I go, And when my mom growing up, she said something, just how it went down. So I was like, huh. And then I went, fuck, but we're going on a field trip tomorrow. We're going to Little Vietnam in the city. And it's just all eating candy and fucking around. I really wanted to do it. So I go, but we're going on a field trip. We're going to Little Vietnam. I really want to go. And she goes, when do you leave? I go, first thing in the morning. She goes, when do you come back? I go, 3 o'clock. She goes, you're not in the school at all. I go, no, we get dropped off. We get on the bus. We come back at the end of the day. She thinks for a long time. She goes, you can go to school. The next day, there's a true story. May 20th, 1988. A woman walks into my elementary school through the door that my class was in. I used to get in a lot of trouble as a kid, and I used to always talk, so the teacher pushed me in the far right corner, so I sat away from the other kids, and I was right by the door. A woman walked into the school wearing a robe and nothing underneath. I know me. I would have commented. I would have said something. I would have tried to show off. I would have tried to get laughs. There's no question. The room was empty. She walked through, walked down the hall, walked into another room, shot 7 kids, killed one of them. True story. To this day, my mom cannot explain why she didn't want me to go to school. When I've talked to her to this day, and I brought it up to her a lot, she goes, I don't know, Jake. I had a feeling in my gut. The kid goes to school, you're never going to see him again.
Well, it was awesome.
Dope as usual podcast. Make sure you check that podcast out for the full interview with Jake. But that is really, really powerful, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the mom picking up on something 2 days ahead of time.
Yeah.
And knowing that she didn't want to let her son go to school, that's very strange. The premonition, intuition. What do you think, Tressa? Is there a difference between premonitions and intuitions?
Oh, I think there are. Yeah, sure. And who knows if there were either of those? Maybe she had some spirit telling her, absolutely not. Do not let your child go in. Who knows what that was? But wow, what?
Yeah, and to still be alive. And I mean, there's people like Seth MacFarlane was supposed to be on the second plane that hit the Twin Towers on 9/11. Right. You hear a lot about people that were supposed to be on planes. Look, well, on the Buddy Holly flight, who was it? Waylon Jennings lost the flip to Ricky
Gervais.
No, La Bamba, Richie Valens.
Oh.
He's the one that lost the flip and could not go on the flight. So that flight, it saved his life. And you hear a lot of these kind of stories where people just miss having something troublesome happen. They built the entire movie serial of,
Final Destination?
Yeah, Final Destination.
Yeah.
Based on these kind of concepts that if you get that premonition, you avoid it. Does death still stalk you? Is it still hunting you?
I heard, Dave, along that lines, is some of the folks that were supposed to go on the plane on 9/11 that ended up not getting on the plane for whatever reason, ended up dying. There's quite a few number that died within like a year or two of that.
Really? I haven't heard about this.
Yeah. And
Dave,
I wonder, real quick, I wonder if that has to do with the survivor guilt. I wonder how many of those might have been suicide.
I don't know. That might be something we want to talk about one of these days.
Yeah, that's wow. Go ahead, Greg.
You know, Dave, I think it was in my 7th book, Messages from Mothman. I think I have about
What's that?
two chapters that covered this.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
Really?
that one right there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
I've
I've never seen this before.
Yeah,
should check it out.
it's about how you recognize these things and instead of dismiss them, how you identify those little red flags and assign meaning to them and see how it changes your life. Yeah,
I did. I've talked about it on the show before, so I don't want to get into it. On New Year's Eve, 1988, I had premonitions of my mom collapsing, going to the hospital. She did, in fact, end up having a grand mal seizure going into the hospital later that night. I had no indication prior to that she was having anything wrong. So that was very powerful to me. But I started thinking back, and it was after 9/11 that this really struck me. I was home on 9/11. I was nursing one of the worst migraines I've ever had. And it was just brutal. And I remember like barely even being able to lift the phone up to call into work that morning. I couldn't see. I could barely see the dial. And I told him, I said, my brain is splitting open. And I fell back asleep. And my wife at the time burst into our room and she goes, "We're under attack." And it shook me. And I woke up from it. And I'm like, wait, what? And I'm thinking somebody's attacking our home. Something is happening. And she goes, "America, it's under attack." And my brain literally froze. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she turned on the TV. And I turn and I'm looking at the smoldering building. And then there comes the second plane. And I was tuned in for that moment. And I thought, wow, that's really weird. To see this, it was so impactful and terrifying. But then all of a sudden I started flashing back. I was homesick from school the day the Challenger exploded. I was homesick from the day from school when they the Oklahoma City bombing, like these massive migraines and headaches. So I often wonder, do we make an impression like the random number generators can actually pick up that there is something going on in our universe days before it takes place? And the random number generator is exactly as it is. So there should be no alignment. And these things are coming into my understanding is they're coming into alignment in certain points leading up to major tragedies or major incidents. As a matter of fact, if I remember this correctly, and I'm sure 900 people will tell me I'm a buffoon and give me the right answer, but I believe they said that the death of Michael Jackson actually registered higher on these random number generators than the 9/11 attack did. And it began 2 days before his death, which is really kind of strange, but I digress. I just think it's weird. Was I picking up on that anguish and stress days beforehand or the day of and sensing that? That is because there's been so many of those tragedies. I've been home sick. So I'm either a hypochondriac with good timing.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes.
That is a good possibility. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Or am I just that empathic that I was picking up? It's so strange. Such a weird deal. Where do you guys fall? Chachi, have you ever had a premonition? And I don't mean when the horses are running hot or you're throwing dice in Vegas, but have you ever had a real premonition or gut instinct to do something or not do something and then it failed miserably or something happened and you're glad you didn't go?
So about 10 or 15 years ago, I used to have these thoughts about plane crashes. And I used to travel a ton for work, 40 plus weeks a year. And it never failed that I was always on a plane a day or two before a plane crashed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we haven't had knock on wood here, we haven't had a plane crash in the U.S. of a large commercial airliner in many, many years. But I used to always have this premonition that it was going to happen. And then it would happen about the time that I flew. Thankfully, and the weird thing is, I probably, like I said, that was 5 or 10 or 15 years ago. I haven't had one in years. And we haven't had a large commercial airliner crash in years. I just always thought it was so weird. I don't claim to have any powers. It's just, why would I even feel that? And then it happened.
Yeah. What about you, Colonel? Ever had premonitions, intuitions?
Well, I think more intuition. There was one time when me and my wife, we were RVing in Florida and in North Carolina. And we had parked the RV at the RV place and beautiful park and everything. plugged it up, started the air conditioning. And of course, the next thing is let's go to a bar. So go to a bar, leave our little dog Turbo in the RV, nice air conditioned RV. And so we're drinking, having a great time, great dinner and everything. And all of a sudden I'm like, we got to go back to the trailer. Something's not right. I don't feel right. We got to go back. And my wife's like, what, are you kidding me? And Kim, my wife, she at a bar, she loves to drink. So she's like, we're not leaving. And so I'm like, yeah, we really need to go. So drive back, get to the RV. Everything's dark. It's still daylight, but everything's dark in the sense of electricity. There's no electricity. And so we go in. My RV's probably 80, 85 degrees inside because the air conditioning.
Holy cow.
My dog's like just panting like crazy. So if we wouldn't have gone back, I'm sure another 10 minutes, it wouldn't have been good, So I don't know what made me get that feeling because, the bar we were at had great electricity, cold beers and everything. So I don't know. Just that's the one time I really felt, I don't know what it is, but we got to go back. So.
Very cool. How about you, Sweet Tea? Have you ever had a moment of premonition, something come through that you kind of sensed was coming?
I don't know. I don't remember that stuff. And if I do, I immediately am like, absolutely not. That's fake.
Interesting.
Shut up, Greg. But
you should have seen that coming, Sweet Tea. That should have been your premonition.
Exactly.
No, that's the thing. I don't have big event things. I know exactly how this person is feeling, and I don't like that, and I don't like that person, and I don't like Greg right now.
Wow.
Or in general. No, I just meant in general, but right now especially. That's all I'm saying.
She got angry. Did you hear her? She got angry.
Now,
Greg, shut up.
Greg, as a cop, as somebody in the paranormal as well, we've talked about this. I think a lot of cops get that gut feeling, that instinct. Has that happened to you a lot while on the job, that you just know something's coming before it actually happens?
Yeah. When I worked SWAT, especially when we're doing fugitive warrants or tracking people and ended up having to clear houses and those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
But, I don't know whether it's your skin picking up on the space that you're in, and you sense movement subliminally.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I got a drink. If I had a drink, I'd drink.
Yeah.
So, if you're, sorry, Chachi, no more beer.
Hey, kid.
I don't know whether it's just that your very heightened awareness, but I do know this. Throughout the years, I used to always tell Lynn, what's our plan? What are we doing today? I don't like just randomly stumbling through the day. I want to know what we want to do. And I have learned very much, instead of trying to force things to happen, I'm very much more about maybe, I want to do something, but something's in the way. Maybe I'm not supposed to do that. So I just kind of go along with whatever that other thing is, like the Oreo cookie fund.
Matt Johnson, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
It's amazing. Yeah. A lot of military personnel I've spoken to.
Yeah.
A lot of workers in emergency field, fire department, police. I know I spoke to a fire chief not long ago, and again, I'm very cautious with names. I don't want to give them out because some of these guys get freaked out that people might know that they have some abilities or feel like they do. And he had come in, he had a couple of his guys try to call in sick that day, and he's like, no, we're going to need you. We're going to need you. And they're like, oh, Cap, I don't know, man. I'm really having a bad day. And he's like, yeah, I think somebody's going to have a worse day, and we need to all be here today. And they had a full complement that day and a couple extras that had come in, and he had them working on stuff just around the firehouse to keep them busy. And they got a really bad call. It was like a 4-family house townhome thing that went up quick. And because they were all there, because they had enough men, they were actually able to save everybody and put the fire out. And it was really, he said, Dave, I honestly believe had I not pushed for them, we would have been a few men down and we wouldn't have been able to get all those kids and families out of the house safely and in time. So it is interesting that you start to get that. But I wonder, are people with that sensitivity drawn to jobs like that?
Oh, I think
Because
so.
of that gift? Or do they get that gift being prone to be in that job and being taught to become hyper aware? Does it start to, like when you have other, they say if you lose your vision, your hearing and smelling start to improve. Is it the sense of you're going in, you're learning predictability, you're learning things as a police officer, an EMT, a fireman, that you do kind of awaken that sixth sense so that you are prepared for this?
I think it can be both.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
I think you can be called to it because you have that sensitivity, and I think that you can develop it once you're there.
Yep.
It doesn't have to be either or.
Agree.
What I've noticed, and we've got a lot of listeners right now that are saying this, often at this point in the show, many folks are getting a premonition or an intuition, and not sure which one. As Greg continues to get redder and more purple, there could be a stroke or heart attack on the horizon.
Oh, no.
I have to.
I'm not saying it. That's just what I see.
I do want to acknowledge one listener who took the time to draw an art piece for us. And Sweet Tea, you were not yet part of the team. I've had this in my folder and I kept meaning to show it, but since we're going to go after Greg and his purple face on this, I did think it's funny that he created the P6 Mafia. He's got me as Walter White. I'm guessing that's Chachi with the knit cap on from Ed, and Eddie. We all know who Heyman is, the Grimace up in the corner, and the Colonel, the P6 Mafia. I think we should all get that tattoo on our arm.
Done.
Right. Yeah. Or chest.
You have to go full
chest.
prison chest tattoo. I like
Exactly.
Look, Greg is the only one that is not finding. Greg, you I think came off better than Chachi.
I was going to ask.
Yeah.
I don't know that cartoon. What is that character I'm looking at, Dave?
I think you get the idea just from looking at it.
Yeah, he's like a baby stoner.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, he's definitely the smart one.
Cool.
He's the talented one. Interesting stuff. I would love to hear from you guys. Put it in the comments if you're listening or watching the show later. Put it in the comments. I want to know about your premonitions, your intuitions, and I do see some of you have been doing it in the live chat, so thank you for sharing that. But we want to hear more from you, and if you want to email me in a story of something that really impacted you, as a matter of fact, I'm going to do this, and it's tacky, but in my book, which is out and available now, Theater of the Mind, the first story is one of my all-time favorite stories that kind of talks about a premonition, but done in a really interesting fashion. The way they wrote it was really clever as well. But the fact is that this family received a phone call from an aunt who had been in the hospital in coma, and she was sobbing and crying about the fact that JFK had been shot. And they were checking the news. Nothing happened. There was no news of John F. Kennedy being shot. And for the rest, you'll have to buy the book. No, I'll give you a little bit more. The next day, and they called the hospital back to check on the sister because they were worried that, she was there. She was in a coma. She'd come out of the coma to call them. And they assured the family that she had never come out of this coma. And the next day was November 22nd, 1963. So she called the day before the assassination to tell her family, who were big Kennedy fans. But the story is much better written than I just explained it, so you'll get a much better read out of it. But that's just one of the amazing stories in Theater of the Mind, Tales from the Darkness. So go order a copy now. You can find it at paranormal60.com. We only have a few minutes left, and I want to get to this last bit. Because Sweet Tea, I sent this to you about a week or two ago, and we've had to cut things short. But I want to get into this because cloning to me is really fascinating, and there's some pretty big news. I mean, we know about Dolly, the sheep. Old news, boring, blah blah blah. Let's get into what's going on now. There was news breaking recently. Take it away, Sweet Tea.
Well, the news is basically that the last, a rhesus monkey had just turned 3 that had successfully been cloned. Go ahead, have a drink. That's fine.
Yeah,
I'm
and
thinking of drinking.
And they just delved it. Yeah, okay. They delved into the science of it and how you guys, it's just not going to happen. Like, there's no way to clone an adult. They have to pull back what's it called?
The family show.
Epigenetic.
The myelin teeth.
Oh.
All right, you guys. It's the DNA. Once you become an adult, once you start to grow as a person, you're no longer an embryo. Your DNA changes. So they can't clone an adult. If they're going to clone anything, it's got to be a fetus. And who cares about a fetus? You don't know who that's going to be. You can't clone yourself. So, like, well,
That's
I don't
your
even.
takeaway from this article.
Yes, 100%. Like, who wants to clone a fetus? Who cares what that thing is? I don't know what that person's going to
They couldn't
be.
even
You know
talk.
what? Get all excited, Flipper. Can you
boring.
back off the mic a little bit? When you start going into
Me?
high pitch mode, you start screeching us all.
Wow.
Oh, I'll just
So,
not say anything.
No, it's good.
Sweet
It's just when you get real anxious about stuff, it's like your mic goes
When
through
you're
the roof.
panicking,
Yeah, like you're panicking.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go
take a
panic.
deep breath.
You know what, Sweet Tea? One thing that I found kind of interesting, and I can see this in the future.
Mhm.
So they're saying that realistically, as a cell matures, it starts developing in a way that makes it difficult to replicate it later on.
Correct.
But what is to say when you're born, or before you're born, they're like, let's take the cell out, put it somewhere in the future as an insurance policy.
If you're not the worst person on earth, maybe we want to clone
may not
you.
turn out to be Hitler, who knows?
Mhm.
But, for a later date, we can use that cell to replicate him, build another heart for him, build another kidney,
That's kind of what they're doing with a lot of places are taking the umbilical cord
Yeah.
and they're saving. You can actually save.
Greg got really excited about umbilical cords. Like, settle down, Greg.
I got a whole collection of
But
them.
they actually do that,
Yeah.
Colonel, so that the fact is that you can use that stem cells for your own health
Right.
in the future. But yeah, you would think that theoretically then they could take that and clone a version of you. Now I understand, like Sweet Tea brought up, that is going to mature and evolve and change. Because I got it right. Like I was born, everybody's like, how
You
come your
were?
boys are so tall and you're 6 feet and all your boys are 6'3", 6'4", 6'5"? And I think, well, my mom smoked because in the 60s you could smoke through a pregnancy. It wasn't bad for you. Right.
Yeah, they let you.
Yeah, they did. They encouraged it. It's good. It'll mellow the mom out.
Oh, yeah.
So my mom smoked like a chimney. So I wonder how that affected my DNA. Right. And then I grew up breathing that in and asbestos in the basement. There's been a lot of DNA manipulators that,
Don't forget
that are
lead.
in there.
You're lucky to hit 6 foot.
Right. I was lucky at all. And why don't I have hair? I've explained it. Mom,
Yeah.
all of her heaters. But it'd be interesting because if you had the stem cell from birth, if you had that umbilical cord and you created a clone of Dave and grew him simultaneously in a smoke-free home, and then you checked both DNAs, obviously it would appear to be the same person, or would it? Would there be triggers that have changed because we do alter and we do evolve and our body finds a way to deal with certain things? Would he have come up with irritable bowels?
Yeah.
And a
Okay.
full head of hair, but I've got clean bowels and bald. I don't know how it works.
There's also the fact that they cannot produce a clone through a clone embryo. They have to use an organic embryo to take DNA from that organic embryo. So it won't
But
be an
who's to say
exact
they
clone.
haven't harvested
not
in
really
the
clone.
drippings and scrapings of mom. They didn't take one ovary out that they could do that to. Jeez.
I am. All scientists are. No, they don't do
Yeah.
that.
I don't
That's
think all
weird.
scientists.
No,
Scientists
all
are
of
doing
them.
some sketchy
You know
stuff
what would
out
be a trip
Mm.
is if
Get a spoon in
if second Dave, you offered him like a McRib
Second
and
Dave.
like a frickin', he'd be like, yeah, no.
Oh, that
Then
would
we'd
not
know.
be Dave DNA. No.
Exactly.
Obviously, his DNA was the tainted one.
Oh yeah. He'd be the Danny DeVito of the twins.
That's right.
That's what I said.
That would
Yeah.
not work well at all. I would be up for it. I'm not opposed to the concept, but my theory is,
But yeah, you just want to keep making more people. That's not
I've already got
cloning.
11. No.
It's called
In
breeding.
the concept of cloning, where does the soul originate?
Thank
Does
you.
it then? Are we getting a fresh new soul? Are we getting a fresh new human, or are we getting a biological photocopy, like that movie Multiplicity,
No.
right? Where you're going to get kind of a photocopy, so you're going to get a slightly off version of Dave, which would be really weird, because a slightly off version of somebody really off already is going to be like Manson, I think. Yeah. But where would that soul come from? Would we share one soul?
No.
I don't know.
I mean,
we can't
obviously.
tell where consciousness or souls stem from.
That's where
So how do
black-eyed
we know?
kids come from.
Shush.
Good point. There you go.
I feel like,
No
I mean, obviously nobody knows anything, but I feel like it's a universal thing. I don't think it has anything to do with DNA, but it still doesn't feel right, and it's not going to ever be an exact copy of the clone, the originator of the clone.
Right. Even that article, that the one that Sweet Tea is referring to, it says if we were to clone a woolly mammoth, it would still not have the characteristics of a woolly mammoth that would have been alive back in the prehistoric age, because it doesn't have the same, it's not learned the characteristics of its environment like it had back then.
But even I think that's wrong. I feel like there's knowledge in your own DNA that are instincts that you just know because it's in your DNA. It's learned. It's family trauma. It's whatever. It's generational trauma. It's just there. I don't think it has anything to do with being taught instinct anyway, like being taught how to be that animal.
But yeah, here's the other part though, Colonel. They've actually done these tests where they've gone in to embryonic eggs and they flip the DNA switches, and they have these chickens have grown fangs, and they've been able to prove, and scales, they've been able to prove that dinosaurs are more closely related to chickens than they are to like alligators, crocodiles, things that we would normally think. Yeah, it's crazy. There's a documentary out there about it, and you can go on YouTube and read and see a bunch of these documentaries that they put up. But it's really, they were digging deep into it, and they were flipping switches just trying to see what they could produce, and they were producing baby T-Rex chickens, basically.
Love it.
Yeah. So that to me shows that, well, then they could go in if they know what DNA indicators are looking for, and they could flip the switches in the elephant DNA to make it hairy again, especially if they've already got the DNA genetic,
Aren't they already switching, like in regards to whether it's going to be a boy or a girl? I read somewhere where there
was, what were they calling that? They were calling that, not customized genetics, but it's something like that. It was real witty.
Designer kids. I don't know.
Yeah, designer kids, where they were talking about being able, you could go in and choose hair color, eye color. And it's interesting because then it comes into the category of, if we can go in and turn off the indicators that allow cancer to grow,
right,
and other things, is that good?
Well, that's more like stem cell research than clones. Like just.
But doesn't it make you wonder, if we remove one peg from the system, is cancer the least of two evils that might live within us?
Yeah.
And cancer cells might be tamping something else down that could be like Ebola, right? Where you pull it out and at age 10, you just dissolve into a pile of black goo.
What are you talking about? That's horrible.
Well,
that's what we need to think about, Yeah.
Yeah, I want an eye stalk that I can look around the corner.
Oh, you're still talking about the eye stalk. We want to have an eye stalk as well.
Yeah, Greg.
Yeah, Periscope Greg.
Really fun. Yeah.
I don't know. So real quickly, would you allow a clone of yourself if science came to you and said, we would like to clone you for science, and we will let this child live a natural life. He's not going to be stuck in a lab. She's not going to be stuck in a lab. She's not going to be told how to live. She's just going to be.
How much am I getting paid?
Would you allow it to happen, Chachi?
All about money.
Yeah.
So this is an actual duplicate of me.
Yeah.
This child will be born and raised.
Theoretically, right.
Instead of
I mean,
practicing
without
kissing
Meemaw.
in the mirror, you would have you to practice on.
Would
Yeah,
you,
obviously, Meemaw and your dad would not be the ones raising you. So
would you
there
be
will
able
be
to
subtle
know them
differences.
in a way? Like have
happening?
some type of contact, through an attorney?
I don't
or
know,
something?
Marty. It's not that deep a question. Jesus,
Yeah,
you do
I'm
work for the
saying,
government.
like
no.
me
You
and
do work
me
for
and,
the government. Can we talk a little more red tape, please?
So no.
so me and Chacha are in a bar, right? And we're like hammering away,
Oh my
Whoa,
God, what's
whoa.
happening?
drinking beer.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
Right.
so
That's slamming. No,
he was
that's
slamming, yeah. So
Yeah.
well, no, not even that. But I think if you were able to know that your twin had a good liver, then it would be a little bit easier to keep.
Liver.
Yeah.
If I
Say,
could
hey,
use
how's your liver
So you're
doing?
gonna
Good?
steal
Okay.
The liver from your clone and disregard their
That's
life?
what the cloning would
Is it
be, to be
stealing?
able to use as extra
Keep your liver.
parts.
right.
Oh no, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the only reason cloning should ever happen is for.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
They are cloning
But-
body parts.
Some
They
people
are
are
Yes,
cloning
no, that's what I'm saying. Clone the body parts, not the whole friggin' person. That's
Yeah.
weird.
Liver.
Would you-
Okay,
so back
liver,
to
we
my,
get it.
My actual question, Chachi, would you allow them to clone you for science to see what
Yes.
would happen? Yes. Greg, would you allow there to be a clone of a little Greg
Yes.
or Gregina?
Yeah.
Gregina.
Okay.
Yeah.
Colonel, would you allow a private to be born?
Yeah, I think so. But then again, you got to start looking at it. Okay, we're going to clone everyone.
Here you
We're
go.
already running out of room on the earth as it is,
Mm,
right?
mm-hmm.
So now
Yeah, there's
you're
no
doubling
room.
everyone automatically. And because you're cloning people, people are living longer because they can take each other's liver now back. I want my liver back.
Wait, what's
So
happening?
it's going to even be longer lifespans. So you're going to have like people.
Do you think
You
it's
know?
because they put them both
Yeah,
on the
sweet
same
pea.
level?
I
They're
didn't
getting
want to
that
break the
Chihuahua
news, but
hyper.
yeah, that might happen.
Yeah, I'm with you.
They're like Lego people. You just
So-
take their liver, just stick
Yeah.
The question being, Colonel, would you allow yes or no?
I think I would. Yeah,
All
I
right.
think. Yeah.
Well, even after all the ranting, yeah, I still would go for
Yeah,
it.
why not? It'd be
Because
fun.
you know why?
It's wrong, but I'd do it.
People are going to say, people are going to
It's
say,
wrong
why
in
do you
so many
always
ways,
make,
but yeah, let's do it. What the hell?
people are going to say,
What
why do you always
happened?
make sweet tea go last? And it's usually because she takes us right off the rails. So I like to try to get
Hey.
the answers out from us, and then we can go
That's
into the
not
next.
fair.
No. We go on to the next evolution of the conversation because that's where you take us. It's a
Oh,
plus.
thank you.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Sweet Tea? Would you allow their cloning to occur and for Sweet Tea Junior to be made?
Yeah, the way cloning is, the way they've figured it out right now. I see Greg making faces. Yeah, sure. Don't make me be responsible for it. I don't want to raise it. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. I have enough problems being
Wow.
responsible for myself.
It's just a kid. It's not even a clone of me. I don't care. I don't care.
PMC Ryan says, would Greg's clone be purple?
100%. If
I
it's
gotta
a
get
clone,
new
it would
life.
have to be.
I got to get
He
some
is
light
purple.
in here.
Yeah, it's the only way to go. Interesting, fun conversation, interesting dialogues. At least I thought so. Thank you all for being here with us this evening. We will be back next week with more paranormal news, and hopefully we'll be back up to full complement. Who knows? Maybe Scott Wolter will drop by. for half an hour.
Yeah!
God, I hope so.
You
Birthday
never know.
twin.
The
Yeah.
sixth
I
amigo.
want to talk to him about a church in Babylon, New York.
All right.
Okay.
Sounds
Throw
great.
that one out there.
You
All
can,
I don't know
right.
where that came
Do
from,
that.
but okay.
ladies and
Well,
gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. We'll see you again next week right here on the very best in paranormal programming. This is the Paranormal 60 News.
It's Wednesday night and I'm alone. The Paranormal 60's on. It's just for paranormal freaks like me, with poltergeist and ghosts and blues and UAPs. You miss a word, you do a shot. It starts to snowball and we laugh a lot. It's just like drinking with your TV friends. I'll be passed out before tonight's show ends. Dreaming the aliens are taking me away. I'll go wake up till sometime late on Saturday. It's Wednesday night and I'm alone. The Paranormal 60's on. Schrader's on. Schrader's on. Schrader's on. Chachi and the Colonel and the Paranormal Detective. All these traitors copy and they all will be directed. He's got protected bracelets and some crazy magic tricks. Even Scully cannot save him from the voice of Stevie Nicks. Traitors on, traitors on. It's Wednesday night, don't be alone. The Paranormal 60's on. Now one day Dave might even put me on his show. There's a ghost in my mom's basement, man, I live down there, I know. It's Wednesday night, don't be alone. The Paranormal 60's on. Traitors on. Words is hard.
Double secrety Oreos. Oh.